Everyone, it's my pleasure to be with you here today. This is an exciting time for Mitsubishi Aircraft Corporation, and I'm really excited to be part of it at this point in time in their history. We have been on a journey, as the previous speakers have said, but we're at a turning point. And this turning point is really focused on taking us into the future with a product and a product strategy and a family that's going to change the status quo of this regional air travel industry. If we go to the next slide. Everyone has already mentioned it already, but I think one of the things that brought me to this company after a 33-year career at a very large global aerospace company was not the idea of launching a new product. It was the idea of changing an entire industry sector that's been neglected, that has not been paid attention to, that has been lacking innovation, and that ultimately the people that we care most about have been suffering. That is both our airline customers from a profitability standpoint and the passengers who have been mistreated in many ways because of that lack of focus. Go to the next slide. We all know that air travel is strong, that traffic is going to double over the next 20 years, about a 4.2% annual growth rate, driven by strong economic forces, strong GDP. But at the end of the day, what drives this aviation sector is an entire ecosystem. It cannot rely solely on mainline aircraft, because where do the people come from that are filling those aircraft? They're being fed by the regional aircraft that are bringing people from smaller communities to the mainline hubs so that they can travel around the world. This is where our growth is coming from. If we go to the next slide, please. It's been said already several times, but our largest market is North America. Second is Europe. Third is Asia Pacific. These regions are growth regions, and I think this is an area that Alex talks a little bit about, and that is why North America, and why is North America such a large portion of the future opportunity for this regional sector. If we go to the next slide. These are some of the reasons why. As Alex said, almost half of the flights in the United States are on regional jets. 96% of all airports in North America are serviced by regional jets. But the most staggering statistic is 63% of airports are only serviced by regional jets. This is a vital and important market segment. It is something that we care very deeply about, and it's why Mitsubishi Aircraft Corporation is focused on finding solutions for this very, very vital and important market segment. Let's go next. The mainline aircraft companies, or the mainline airlines, understand this. In 2018, 110 new routes were launched strictly from regional jet service. This is going into communities that have never been served before. This is bringing economic opportunity to communities that wouldn't have it otherwise. As a matter of fact, about $1.5 billion a year is attributed to regional jet service in North America. This is why it's such an important market for us. If we go next. North America and Europe in 2018 were incredibly profitable. But I go back to my earlier point. How do we fill up those mainline aircraft? Regional jets bring passengers to those hubs as well as point to point. So it's both. It's adding more capacity and adding up the load factors on the aircraft. As a matter of fact, if we go to the next slide. Demand is outpacing capacity. Part of this is due to consolidation, a little bit more of a disciplined approach from the airlines in this consolidated state in terms of how fast they grow. But if we go to the next slide, the real reason is load factors continue to rise and they continue to grow. This is a good problem to have. Unfortunately, if we go to the next slide, you're going to see that a huge portion of the regional jets today are over 12 years old. What this says is the market is ripe for a replacement. The timing is perfect. This is why I said earlier, this is a great time for Mitsubishi and the Spacejet to come into the market. There is a huge retirement wave coming, and we see this as a huge opportunity for us. We'll go to the next slide. The reason why this is so important is because fuel prices are going to continue to rise. Inefficient, outdated, old aircraft that continue to get warmed over is not the solution for the future. Fuel prices are going to rise, operating costs are going up, and at the end of the day, what ends up happening is airlines are forced to reduce the amenities and the services they're offering passengers. So what we want to do is offer the economics and the passenger experience to change this. As a further example, if we go to the next slide, revenue per seat is dropping by 3% annually, yet cost per seat is only dropping 1%. This cannot continue. This is why we are focused on reversing these trends by bringing the latest generation technologies to the marketplace and driving change in a market segment that's been desperate for innovation and change. If we go to the next slide, the other pressure that the market is feeling is absolutely what all of us in this room care about and that we're passionate about, and that is to be good stewards of the planet we live on. Environmental standards are important, and as they continue to come into the marketplace and have higher and higher restrictions, we want an aircraft that will respond appropriately and be responsible to the world we live in. Next, the last thing I'm going to mention, second to the last thing I'm going to mention in terms of the market dynamics is the pilot shortage. We're also running into the risk of not being able to serve vital markets because there's not enough pilots to serve all of the routes that are out there. So what the answer to this, one of many answers, is to upgauge and have slightly larger regional jets that can service the marketplace with fewer pilots. This is an area that we are focused on. You go next, please. The other thing is the passenger experience. Those of you that are out there that have flown regional jets, you will understand this. Seats have gotten smaller and smaller, not just on regionals, but on mainlines. Mainline aircraft seats are getting smaller and smaller, especially in economy, where the majority of people fly. Also, in 2007, when checked bag fees came into the marketplace, people responded, the market responded with bringing more and more luggage onto the aircraft. What that did was it forced them to give up their bags at the gate, slowing down boarding processes, causing risks in terms of faster turn times, and affecting reliability, as well as operational implications for baggage handlers and additional ground support equipment, so adding to the operational costs of airlines. If we go next, this is where we find ourselves today. An industry forced into compromise. Today there's only two choices for airlines to choose from. A small, cramped, unwelcoming cabin, but has better economics than a larger platform that has worse economics. What do you choose? A more efficient aircraft that is mistreating your customers, or a larger aircraft that has worse economics? This is called compromise. Mitsubishi Aircraft Corporation is saying today, no more compromise. Next slide, please. That's why we're here introducing the Spacejet family of aircraft. This is the end of compromise, because with the widest cabin in its class, tallest cabin, which you'll see, and some of you will get an opportunity to come over and see the mock-up later, this is giving us a platform to honor and respect the passenger. These are deep-seated values of our Japanese roots and heritage. We want to respect the passenger, and we want to return profitability to the airlines so that they can open up more routes they can service more communities, they can bring more economic prosperity to more locations around the world. How do we do this? Next. We do this by introducing the latest generation technology. This is the history of the products that are currently in the marketplace. We're talking about bringing the latest generation technologies to bear to answer the biggest problems in the regional jet sector. You go next. What this means is a new family of aircraft, the M90, the M100. The M90 will go into passenger service next year. It will be delivered to ANA. The M100 will come in 2023. These aircraft are built to change the paradigm and the status quo of today's marketplace, which is unacceptable and compromised. Next. What if the best part of your journey was getting off a mainline aircraft and becoming more comfortable and having more space to breathe, more space to enjoy yourself on a regional jet, the Mitsubishi Spacejet? That would be the paradigm we want to shift to. Next, as I said earlier, the largest cabin in terms of width and height, our engineers and our Japanese designers got together and they started to work with one of our partners to develop a cabin that would honor and respect the passenger. A mantra started in that process, space where it matters. You'll start to see that show up in different locations in our wording. We always looked at space where it matters. Chaos, confusion, disrespect, taking away your ability to have freedoms happens at the airport. We wanted to create a large, welcoming entry into this aircraft, space where it matters. Create more space at the entryway so that the passengers can feel welcome and that they're transitioning from a chaotic environment to a peaceful environment. Because at the end of the day, more personal space equals tranquility and peace for passengers. Next slide. At the end of the day, we say the M100 is a scope-compliant aircraft. But I want to make a very clear distinction. The M100 is not a scope-limited aircraft. We are scope-compliant. That means in a tri-class configuration, 76 seats, 86,000 pounds, check. We meet all those conditions. This is a scope clause aircraft. But if you're not in North America, you can go with single class, 84 seats, or you can fill it up with fuel and put 88 seats in it. And for a high density route, perhaps in Europe, where it's very acceptable to see this kind of a configuration. This is a very flexible interior. The most important thing is this aircraft is economically viable in any configuration. Next. So as we think about the passenger experience, like I said before, it's really a place to escape. If we go next, more personal space means things like the widest seat at 18.5 inches, which is wider than any mainline economy seat. If we go next, it means a roller bag for every passenger in a tri-class 76 seat configuration, or even at a single class 84 seat configuration. Having your own space for your bag is critically important because it removes anxiety as you're boarding. If you ever see people leaning forward and pushing to get into the aircraft, it's not because they're worried somebody's going to take their seat. It's because they're looking for overhead bag space. This aircraft returns this anxiety or relieves this anxiety for people in the regional jet segment. Next. Not just any bag, but standard IATA size bags. So this aircraft, again, gives more personal space so that when you're seated, you know you have your belongings close by. Next. Peace and tranquility for the millennial generation in particular, or those that are working, is more than just space. It's space to engage, space to connect. Millennials really cannot be too long, as you know, if you've got teenagers or you've got younger people in your families. you recognize they can't go more than 5 or 10 minutes without being connected. This aircraft is going to be designed, it's coming out in 2023. As a matter of fact, by 2020, 50% of business travelers are going to be millennials. So we have to accommodate the needs of the current and future anticipated passengers. If we go next, we do all of this by not just honoring and respecting the passenger, but by bringing the latest generation technologies to do it at a lower cost, burning less fuel, double digits over today's competition, and less cost to operate the aircraft. If we go next, it's not only economics, it's better performance. The higher thrust to weight performance of this aircraft is so phenomenal that we can take off at shorter runways or in hot conditions where other aircraft manufacturers have to take revenue payload off the aircraft. This means 150 additional airports are available for this aircraft at full payload than the competition. If we go next, environment, like I said before, is critical. We're number one in NOx emissions, lowest. We're lowest at CO2 emissions. We're lowest at smoke. If we go next, we're the quietest aircraft. Look at our noise footprint compared to the competition. Huge difference, and it's going to mean everything for the communities we serve. Next. All of this comes together because, as David and as Alex have said, a long journey of research, working with partners to identify opportunities to reduce weight, finding aero improvements, looking for less drag, improving on the propulsion. All of these areas work together to deliver better performance for the Spacejet aircraft. Next. And what does this mean? This means we can serve the markets of the world at less operating costs, higher revenue potential because it has a passenger-preferred cabin, and third, because we have decent range to cover 99% of all existing routes today. This is a fantastic aircraft. If we go next. I'm going to summarize what everyone has already said, but I'm going to say it one more time because I think it's incredibly important. A preferred cabin honors and respects the passenger, delivering unmatched comfort because of more space. And number two, unmatched performance, both for the environment to be less emissions, quieter for the environment and the communities we serve. And number two, better takeoff performance. All of these things add up to more profit potential for the airlines. I talked a little bit up front about the challenges of this industry. Mitsubishi Aircraft Corporation is on a journey to solve those. We're not there yet. We have a long way to go. We're looking for partners to work with us to help us achieve this. But we're committed to the industry. We're committed to changing the paradigm. And we're committed to honoring our passengers. And we're committed to serving the smaller communities and the main lines who require this service to be profitable into the future. Spacejet, no more compromise. That's my closing remarks, and now we'll open it up for questions.